Here we have the nitrogen cycle. As you know, nitrogen is the most abundant gas in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is the largest sink for nitrogen. But nitrogen is in a form that our bodies can't use. It's essential to cellular processes from trees to humans. It's absolutely crucial to proteins, and it's a key element in DNA and RNA. But plants take in nitrogen from soil after fixation, and animals consume nitrogen through food. Let's look at this complex process and break it down. So a small amount of nitrogen is fixed by lightning, which is pretty remarkable. It enters the soil through precipitation, but this is quite minimal. The real secret behind the nitrogen cycle are the bacteria and fungi that help the nitrogen move all along the way. First, let's start with our legume. We have nitrogen fixation by the rhizobia bacteria in the legume root nodules as a biological fertilizer, providing a direct source of nitrates for the plant. It's magic. We'll talk more about the rhizobial symbiosis in the next segment. But not all plants have this ability. For most of them, the nitrogen is fixed by the bacteria in the soil, and it has to go through the steps of ammonification, nitrification, then denitrification, back up to the atmosphere. During ammonification, soil bacteria and fungi are converting the NH2 to the ammonium, the NH4. We have waste from animals and decomposition of organisms, and that's also going to return the nitrogen to the soil, causing a reaction with water to also form ammonium. In the nitrification step, the soil bacteria convert ammonium to nitrite and then to nitrate. This is the step where finally it's in a form that the plant can take and use for its growth and development. Denitrification takes place by additional soil bacteria that will take the nitrates to produce the nitrogen gas and return it to the atmosphere. Now, there are some soils that are absolutely poor in nitrogen, and our plants and vegetation really struggle to grow. So, enters the step of nitrogen fixation by heat and pressure to form chemical fertilizers as a soil additive. Unfortunately, this can lead to excess nitrates that run off into water bodies and lead to algal blooms and eutrophication. We'll also get into that in a future segment. Let's talk about root nodulation in legumes. How is this process taking place? So the rhizobia bacteria fix the nitrogen by causing an infection. You can see these nodules, these large filled sacs, contain rhizobia. It's entered the plant's roots through the hairs and caused this infection to stimulate cell division, and the nodules can be quite large. Here on the left, you have a picture of a bean, garden bean, with some pretty extensive nodulation. In the upper right is a microscopic view. But only certain rhizobium will cause nodulation, and it depends on the type of legume. So not all rhizobia can cause this nodulation in every type of legume. You have to have a match. So as you're looking at planting different legumes, make sure that you do a little bit of research, and we'll help you figure out which strains are the right ones for your legumes, because it can vary from garden beans and peas to clover and soybeans. On the left, you see extensive nodule on garden bean roots, but on the right, there's no nodules. So the legumes and the rhizobia have this mutualistic relationship. It's symbiotic, with the rhizobia fixing the nitrogen as a critical macronutrient for the plant, and in return, the plant is giving carbohydrates to the bacteria. Now, nitrogen is a limiting growth factor, and so plants may not grow well in nitrogen-poor soil. We often do soil testing in both my biology and AP environmental classes. I bet that's a good lab for you too. So we can even tie that one in here. Now, adding rhizobia to the soil as a biological fertilizer is more sustainable. We have to inoculate the roots, which means we're adding it to the soil. Sometimes you can find a soil that it has it naturally occurring in it. Sometimes it'll be mixed with peat, but it often comes in a powder form that you mix with water and you add a few drops to the soil. You can also get it cultured through a biological supply company, and it'll come in a test tube. But it's a win for the bacteria, for the plants, for humans, and for the entire ecosystem because we're not adding chemical fertilizers to the soils that would then run off and drain into our waterways. The plant gets exactly what it needs from the rhizobia. And when the legume plant dies, nitrogen is directly then added back into the soil as then its tissues are broken down and made available for use by future plants. So you go through this great cycle of enriching your soil, and even sometimes the first crop of legume plants aren't harvested for the beans or the peas. They're just cut down and integrated back into the soil because of the tremendous fertilizer that is contained within those tissues.